Welcome to the Healthy Christian Leader. I'm Dwight Habermehl. Come join me in the living room for some honest conversations. I'll be talking to guests about their journey with Christ through the joys, the challenges, and the messiness of leadership. There's always something to learn from someone's story, so let's get started. Well, hello, friends, and welcome to the Healthy Christian Leader. I'm with my friend Reid Stairs here today. And Reid, it's great to have you back in the program. And we've been talking about joy.
Yeah, and laughing a lot.
Yes, we were. It's amazing. And if you haven't heard the previous podcast, you need to go back and check that out because we're building more on that theme here in this conversation. And today we're going to be talking about delighting in God's people, rediscovering the joy of serving others, which is really kind of an interesting discussion because, like, Reid, would you consider yourself an extrovert or an introvert?
I'm a deeply committed introvert. And it's interesting, this topic, because basically I'm a monk and people are not my priority.
So when you, by your nature, you would rather just be reflecting on the scriptures in the Alps somewhere than serving a congregation, which you have now for 40 some years.
Yeah. And felt so guilty about that initially. And when the Lord called me into ministry, it was like, you're messed up here because I don't really like people. You know? And it was like, really, Lord? And thankfully over the years I have learned to delight in His people. But initially that was not my experience.
Well, it's really interesting because Kristen and I have, one of our children is very introverted. And he probably would have expressed it just like you have. And in fact, he often listens to the podcast, so I'll make sure that he knows to go and...
Hopefully it'll be encouraging.
And he feels called to ministry.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So anyway, that's really fun. Reid, why do leaders sometimes lose their delight in the people that they serve?
Yeah. That's a powerful question, because, and again, I think it's partly that's what the enemy wants for us. Mm-hmm. If he can get us fixated on their failures, their betrayal, all that stuff happens out there. Relationships are just messy, and that if he can get us focused on the negative aspects of it, or get us comparing ourselves to others, or I think if we get our ego strokes from people liking us or from the people themselves,
we're in trouble.
We're in trouble.
Yeah.
Because at some point you're not going to get it.
Yeah.
And then then it's very difficult to delight in people when you're depending on them for making you feel good about yourself and your ministry.
Well, it's interesting, as many of the viewers know, I'm a design build contractor who's also involved in ministry and have been for many years. And it's out of our office complex that we actually have this podcast that we're in here today. And we kind of serve out of that business platform. And it's not just ministry people that experience it.
Oh,
It is the life of leadership, whatever the context you're called to. And one of the things I'm amazed at, and I've thought about recently, is that every individual, they come with all kinds of circumstances and backgrounds. And they've got all kinds of personalities and ways of perceiving information.
Yeah.
Like, communication in the human context is complex.
Yes.
It really is.
It is.
You say one thing, and it is amazing how others will perceive that.
Yeah.
When we're, presenting new ideas, and when we're, for a build or whether it's for a team, it's amazing. I'll often get people to tell me what they've heard.
Yes.
And
Yeah, because what I think I said often isn't what they heard.
No, exactly. And so with the complexity of communication and, you know, all of the diverse backgrounds that people come from and experiences and life journeys, you know, all the way from healthy families to very dysfunctional families, that creates, as they say, a hot mess.
Yeah.
You know, or can create a hot mess in the context of a congregation.
Yeah. And I think if I feel my responsibility is to fix them, it's very hard to delight in them because often they don't get fixed very, very quickly or completely. And I think that's, you know, that's part of that mix, is realizing that, yeah, people are a mess. We're all broken. And that still Jesus delights in us, even in our brokenness. You know, he delighted in it. When you read through the Gospels, there are so many people he delighted in that really were a mess. I mean, Peter, for goodness sake, I would like to just given up on him. But Jesus said, no, I'm going to pray for you, and I'm going to restore you.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was listening to a conversation with a well-known leader in Canada that loves the Lord and just has this area of brokenness in his life. And he said one of the most restoring things that the Lord ever showed him is that you are putting all your focus on this one piece of your life. When your life and Jesus is so much bigger.
Yeah.
You know? But we do those things.
We do. Yeah, we're prone to them, I think, and susceptible to the enemy getting our focus on that.
Well, and we do that for ourselves, but we can do that in the lives of others.
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. And I think that's one of the problems sometimes with delighting in people is if I'm just focused on the moment or the problem, I lose the perspective that God isn't finished with them yet. You know, I remember reading C.S. Lewis one time, and he said something to this effect, that neighbor next door who is so despicable, if you could see what they'll be like when God's finished with them, you'd probably fall down and worship them. And it was like, really? But it's that perspective again of realizing that what I'm experiencing from them and seeing in them isn't the final product or the final word on their life. Then it's easier to find ways to delight in them, I think.
So much really depends, what you're saying, is whether we are big picture people in the lives of folks in our congregation, or whether you get hyper-focused on issues.
Yeah. Oh, I think, that eternal perspective thing.
Yes.
You know, I see that in Paul in Philippians when he says, I'm confident of this. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion. And he's looking at some people that are probably pretty messed up. But he's saying, I'm confident that he's going to complete what he started in you. That, I think, is perhaps part of the key to Paul's delight in people.
Reid, here's a good question. And you can throw a story in if one comes to mind. How can we cultivate joy in relationships when ministry becomes difficult? Have you ever experienced a difficult relationship or difficulties in ministry?
That part's easy to answer. The first part, not so much. How do you find joy in that? It's just a reality of life, isn't it? And it's like you said, it's not just ministry.
Yeah.
But I think there's an extra layer in ministry where if I feel responsible for them, I feel failure if they don't change. And somehow learning to recognize my responsibility is just to walk with them and to model Jesus before them and to pour whatever he gives me into their lives. What they do with it is their responsibility and is not a reflection of my effectiveness. I mean, I think that's one of the things that I struggled with a lot in my earlier years especially. I remember saying to my wife one time, I was so frustrated with the congregation, like, I'm so frustrated. I preach and I preach and I preach and they don't change. And then the Lord really helped me understand is it's not your responsibility to change them. It's your responsibility to feed the word. How they assimilate it or what they do with it is not a reflection of your ineffectiveness as a preacher or a pastor. And that kind of sets us free, I think, freer, to delight in them. And and I think, it's partly looking for any little glimmer of change and transformation in people's lives, and to rejoice in that, and to rejoice in it with them.
Well, and that brings up a really good point, because really sometimes we can think that it's our work that brings transformation, as you share.
Yeah.
But if we're really honest with what the Scripture writes, that is a work of the Spirit in their lives, not a work within us. I had a friend of mine years ago that gave me this phrase when I was just beginning in serving in ministry in the Lord's work. And he said, "Dwight, just let the Word do the work." And I thought about that, and it really, what he was telling me is, Dwight, don't think all of your good illustrations and the great ways that you present people things make transformation. It's God's truth and the power of His Holy Spirit. And, there are lives that have been changed by the most dry, boring sermons because the Scripture came alive by way of the Holy Spirit in the life of a person. Not that we shouldn't put effort into communicating well. That's not the point. But it is a work of the Spirit, and I think, and a work of the Word. And I think when we really truly get that, we can be liberated.
Yeah, and I think it's partly, this may be a little off topic, but I think partly it's, if I realize my responsibility is to create the environment where the Spirit can do His work, rather than my responsibility is to do His work.
Now that's very good.
Isn't it? And I think that's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
If I think it's my responsibility to make the change happen, that's a whole different perspective than I want to create an environment. I'm called to create an environment and opportunity. It's the story Jesus told about the guy had a fig tree and it wasn't bearing fruit, and he said, "Cut the thing down, get rid of it." And the gardener said, "Oh, give it another year. I'll dig around it and put some manure on it." And it really, I remember the Lord really showing me one time. He's like, "That's your job, really. Just add the manure. Do things that will enable people to grow. Cultivate things and nourish people in a way that I can do the work I need to do in them."
Yeah, I mean, the Lord gave me a word years ago. Dwight, I didn't call you to success. I didn't call you to failure. All I called you to is obedience.
Yeah.
And I guess the point in that place was, Dwight, stop measuring yourself and the people around you by the standards you think.
Yeah. That's hard to do.
Yeah.
It's hard to do.
Just do what I've called you to do, and just, I mean, I think of Ezekiel. Imagine having his assignment.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm calling you to a hard and an obstinate people. They're not going to hear you.
They're not going to listen.
No, but I'm sending you
Go enjoy
anyway.
yourself.
Oh, boy.
No, I think that, and I get so frustrated with myself sometimes that I will find myself still caught in that. And I'm going, for goodness sake, you should have learned that. I taught you, it's like, I taught you that 40 years ago. Why are you still struggling with it?
Yeah.
But it is an ongoing thing, isn't it?
It is. It really is. We have to always be reminding ourselves. Yeah. What biblical examples inspire you to delight in those you lead?
Oh, well, Jesus. I mean, obviously, that's the obvious one. But I was just exploring that this last week about how in Luke 15 he talks about the people, the notorious sinners, one translation says, gathered to him, and he ate with them and rejoiced with them and celebrated with them. That his ability to just again, it's that how could he look at them and all of the mess that many of them were in and rejoice and celebrate and enjoy them. And it's like, I just see that, I just want so much more of that, to just delight in people. Like we get that with family, don't we?
Yeah.
Or a grandchild comes to visit or whatever, and it's like, all right, come see Papa, And we delight in it. And the kid may have just thrown a tantrum out on the way in the car with the parents, but we're delighted to see them. And somehow I can develop that kind of joy in people, that they're children of God, they're sons and daughters, and that's the way he is, open arms, even when they're smelling bad and wrecked everything, he still delights in them. That's not natural, though, is it? I mean, that has to be a work of the Spirit in us.
It does. I think it's intentional, and I think it is getting into the right headspace and really seeking the Lord and His strength and all these things. I think of Moses so often in his leadership, and I love the dialogue between him and God, between the people. It's like, no, they're your people. Nope, they're your people.
This obstinate people, you want me to lead them? I'm not sure I see a lot of delight in Moses and the people at times.
But yet, in the end,
yeah,
they're faithful to the call.
Faithful anyway, yeah.
And saw the value of God's work in the life of people.
Yeah. You know, for me, one of the things that has helped change me is I was on the way to teach a motorcycle course one day, and there was a person on the course, it was Sunday, and on Saturday, they had just annoyed me terribly all day. And I at least had the sense to pray this on the way, Jesus, help me see that person with your eyes. And when I got there, they told a joke or something. I thought, that was a really funny joke.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was like Jesus saying, see, I laughed at that too, because I delight in this person. And by the end of the day, I was seeing them differently. And for me, that has been transformative, and that when I get in those situations with difficult people, Jesus, help me to see them the way you see them.
Yeah.
Because He will find a way to delight in them. And then if I can identify with that and yoke up with that, then I can delight in those people, even when they hurt me or even when they...
Yes.
Yeah. Because so often it comes out of that hot mess you're talking about, doesn't it? So often what I take as a personal insult or betrayal or criticism is really coming out of their mess. It's not really about me.
Oh, so often.
Yeah.
Man.
But if I take it personally, it's hard to delight.
Yes. And I see that so often in the work that we do, which is in the business world.
Yeah.
And you really have to concentrate on recognizing that people are on a journey and, they're handling all kinds of other things. And
another verse that really helped me, it was in Romans 2, when it says, when you judge others, the same thing's in you.
Yeah.
And I've been amazed at how often I can judge somebody or criticize somebody, and then the Lord reminds me, you do the very same thing. In different ways maybe, but it's the very same thing inside you that's making that happen. And to walk in that humility.
So it's really what I'm hearing you say is that when we become critical of ourselves, it's very easy to become critical of others.
Oh, yeah. And to walk in that sense of humility of where it's not about me anyway. I'm looked after by God. I'm already loved and in. So I can just walk in that freedom of walking with others even when they're not outwardly delightful.
Well, we're all called into this, as leaders, into this barnyard of humanity, so to speak.
That's a good way of putting it.
How can leaders guard their hearts against cynicism and compassion fatigue?
Well, I think,
about a few things, but...
I think in some ways it goes back to the other podcast we did about delighting yourself in the Lord. I really, again, if my delight is in the people and their response to my ministry and so on, I think that we will find that burnout and discouragement and frustration. But again, it goes back to that, take some time with Jesus. Ask Him to show Him how much He loves you. Because when we live out of that, all the other stuff becomes secondary, I think. At least on a good day.
Oh, that's so good. What about green space, like read time? How does that impact the health of serving people?
Yeah, that's a good point too. And again, I think the enemy wants us to feel guilty about those times. Like, what are you doing out here paddling your kayak? Or what are you doing going on a motorcycle ride? You could be praying for the people, or you could be doing better sermon preparation, or you could be solving that problem. And it feels like a waste of time.
Now, is that the generation, do you think, that you came from?
Probably. I don't. we had a problem with all that, didn't we? Oh dear. Yeah, but I think it's also a spiritual issue.
Okay.
And that I don't think the enemy wants us to just waste time with Jesus and just enjoy our relationship and walk in that. I mean, how many times does it say Jesus got alone with the Father? And I don't think it was just to pray for those crazy disciples. I think he just enjoyed being with his Father. He said, I only do what the Father says and shows me. And so he was spending a lot of green time, I think, with the Father. And I really believe we have to, as leaders, give us, and maybe more my generation, I don't know, but I think the younger ones too, we can get so wrapped up in the doing that we forget the being.
Yeah, such a good word.
Yeah, and it's when we're constantly given to the doing part, those problems arise more and more. They become bigger in our vision. It's all we can see. But when we concentrate more on the being side of things.
Well, and just literally taking time to be away.
Yeah.
Is so
and in
important.
whatever way energizes you.
Well, exactly. And I think the reality is, your emotions, when you're dealing with people, you're dealing with a lot of emotion. In our work, we say our primary objective in day-to-day work is to manage people's expectations, in the contracting world. And that's complicated, as you know.
Yeah.
Our goal is to meet or exceed expectations, but you can't always do that.
No,
and so you're really in that place of managing expectations, and that can be draining. And it's amazing, I've often found that when I go on a holiday, the first few days I'm just exhausted. And I sleep a fair bit, and then I start to enjoy myself, and then by week 2, I am just ready to play, and really enjoy my holiday. And then when you come back to the office, you've kind of got that spring in your step, and the things that might have been overwhelming you before you left aren't really doing that. And I think it's just not even that spiritual restoration happening, but there's an actual emotional restore. So
and physical too sometimes.
Yeah, and physical, clearly. Yep, no question. What are practical ways to show affection and encouragement to your team or church members?
Oh my goodness, that would be better answered by someone that does it well. I think. I mean, I think, and I look at it from me. Sometimes I go, okay, what when people notice things and affirm them in me, that really encourages me. So, to turn it around, it's looking for things in their lives that are positive. And I often forget how powerful that is, how hungry we all are for affirmation and recognition. That I'm part of the team, that I'm a contributor, that I'm valued, that I'm cherished. I read a while ago one time about the dignity of attention, that there's power in just giving people the dignity of attention. If I walk into the room and I just, oh, hi, Dwight, walk right on by, you're feeling like, oh, he couldn't care if I'm here or not. But if I stop, how are you doing today? How's the family? That dignity of attention is a powerful way, I think, to encourage people.
I think it is too. I mean, people really know that they have value because you've stopped to take a moment to notice and recognize.
Yeah. It was interesting because I was talking about that here just recently with my wife. Her uncle was a minister for many, many years, her great uncle actually, and he pastored a church in New Brunswick. And everybody always said he was the old type, stood at the door and all 300 people went by. But he made every person feel like they were really special, and he was really delighted they were there that day. Mm-hmm. What a gift that was. I mean, 45 years later, we still talk about that. And I think, God, give me that gift of making people feel valued.
Yeah.
You know, because he values them.
Well, and you know something, sometimes we struggle with feeling insincere when we put on a happy face and we don't necessarily feel that. And that is a bit of a tension to manage.
Especially for us introverts.
Yeah. But I've really grown to appreciate how valued a smile is.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and especially, you know, in the world that we live in. Reid, we've got about 1 minute left. How have you seen God restore your delight in his people after a difficult season?
Yeah. I think we've talked about it a little bit, but, you know, it's that whole recognizing that he isn't finished with them yet. And that even in their, let me give you this quick little illustration. I had a person one time who was a bit of a problem, a challenge. And I said, Lord, what do you see in this person that you delight in? What do you see in this person? And he said, I like their sparkle. I was like, really? They like really sparkly clothes, and you know, that just, I like their sparkle. And I just remember sitting there chuckling and going, yeah, I do too. And I remember, and then going to that person and actually saying something about it. You know what? I love this, your sparkle, that you always bring beauty and stuff to things. And yeah, it's sometimes just little stuff like that. God, show me something in that person.
Just show me what you delight in.
What do you delight in? What in heck did you create that person for? Like, I can't see it, Lord, help me.
That's so good. Reid Stairs, folks. And thank you for joining us on The Healthy Christian Leader, and we will see you next time. Well, thanks for joining this conversation. I trust that you were encouraged and challenged by the stories and experiences that were shared today. Would you join us next week? You can find new episodes weekly in video form on the Aaron Ministries YouTube page and in audio form wherever you get your podcasts. Aaron Ministries is an interdenominational network of friends in ministry with a mission to foster healthy Christian leadership. Check out our website, aaronministries.com, for more information and resources, and on how you can donate to our ministry and potentially start a healthy Christian leader gathering in your area. Until we meet again, may you experience the Lord's blessing, grace, and peace. I'll see you next week.